Hey guys, this is KSP with Tape, and today you join me for episode 17 of KSP Road to Exploration, and we are at Duna, once again with our probe, and we've just got a mission to send some science data back, so I'm just going to take whatever I can and send it back. Now, there are some missions for taking temperature scans, which I didn't really read that well, because apparently they're on the surface, and this isn't a lander, so I can't really get them. But I do keep getting missions to do things around Duna, so this probe will be a bit of a cash cow, hopefully, and hopefully a bit of a science mine, because I haven't done a ton of science recently, because I've been mostly focusing on getting my whole reusable thing going with my station and my transfer vehicles and such. But anyway, that is sent, and we've been paid handsomely, 83,000. That'll keep me afloat, doing my crazy projects that don't pay back for now. But yeah, anyway, talking of crazy projects that don't pay back, the space station. It's actually going to be very useful. It's just a huge startup cost to build the space station, but because of tourism and various things, it will eventually pay itself off. But anyway, we do need to launch another Ares 1 to the station. I've been launching a lot of these because I have had a huge amount of crew rotations recently. This has supplies for the space station, quite a lot of life support, and then a cool little secondary payload, which we'll get onto in a bit. Anyway, standard thing, just slow the first stage down a bit with the re-entry burn, and then we'll land that later. I am getting that's getting pretty routine, landing first stages. I actually did see some cool photos today of the SpaceX stage coming back on the barge. Very cool that they managed to land on a barge. I mean, that's crazy, that tiny little... it's tiny in the scale of things, but anyway. So, yeah, let's land this because Ares 1 is on its way to the station. And yeah, I just need to set up the parachutes to give me a little extra time, really. I should do this before launch, but I often forget. Well, always forget, as it turns out. But yeah, just going to fall right back towards the surface and pull the chutes. There they all go. And now, yeah, pulled fully, we'll put it down the ocean, get about 15,000 funds back. That's how much we're saving every time we bring one of these stages back, 15,000 funds. And we will be working on bringing the second stage back, actually this episode quite a lot, and in future as well. I just need to make my slightly bigger version of the Pulsar vehicle reusable, because that's a far more useful vehicle than I'm working on, because the current one, the Pulsar 2, which is the one I just used, can do a little under 10 tons to orbit, I think, and the one I've got, the Pulsar 3, which is slightly bigger, is going to be about 15 tons to orbit. Anyway, so, secondary payload. Yes, inside this little cargo bay, we have ourselves a little satellite. Yes, this is a communication satellite that I'm dropping in low Kerbal orbit. Since I find these low Kerbal orbit satellites so useful for reusing stages and just generally having a lot of communications, I'm dropping one of these. I'm dropping another one out of the cargo bay. So that's an extra payload. Secondary payloads are very useful because they're very cheap. Because the main payload takes up the bulk of the cost, and this is pretty light. It's got a couple of antennas and a couple of big solar panels, a few batteries. But it is hugely simple. It's static, it can't move or anything. But yeah, that is going to be a really useful payload. Anyway, so I think we need to bring the second stage back. And also you may be noticing that there's a couple of engines, radial engines on the Ares now. Those are monopropellant radial engines, which are incredibly useful, and I'll get onto that in a little bit. But right now we need to land this second stage. And I'm trying to pick where is best to land it, because obviously I need to have communications. So I can't go all the way around the other side of the planet because this has a very small antenna, which I am going to work on, actually. I'm going to put a bigger antenna on it. Even though it'll fall off in the atmosphere, it'll give me better options for landing. But anyway, yeah, so let's bring this back through the atmosphere. We've got it coming back sort of over the KSC. Well, not over the KSC, relatively near to it. Basically, the problem was I needed communications on where I was going to deorbit and where I'm going to be re-entering, which is now. And I do have communications because there's a lot of low-orbit satellites, like the one I just dropped, which is the one I'm communicating with currently. But yes, this will be using the two drogue chutes and the main parachute for landing. Unfortunately, I do burn off all the fuel on descent for trying not to explode, which was probably not a great idea. Anyway, it looks like we're going to come down in the desert, which isn't great because you kind of want to land on water because it's a much softer landing. But, well, I mean, let's just try and get this back before we think about pinpointing landing. So there go the drogue chutes, which will slow me down nicely, and there goes the main chute, which will slow me down properly. But yeah, and rather foolishly. Oh no, not foolishly. The problem is I'm coming down at a very skew-if angle, so I'm trying to slow myself down. And that takes quite a lot of fuel to put me in the correct position, and I do slam down quite hard and lose the engine, which is most of the money I would be getting back. So that totally sucks, but whatever. We'll work on it. Anyway, so, skipping a little ahead, because, you know, I've shown my approach to space stations quite a lot, so this is just me docking. Yes, we brought the Ares 1 out. We will need some more docking ports at some point. I think I'm going to launch that in the next episode, depending on my launch schedule. In this episode, I actually implement a real launch schedule. Anyway, so, let's just resupply this station with all the food and water and oxygen it can get, and get rid of all of its waste. The Ares will be staying here for a little while, but I'm just going to do this preemptively. Anyway, now that's done, let's take a look at something cool. I mentioned earlier about trying to get my Pulsar 3 to be reusable, because then I can get better payload to orbit. And yeah, that's what this is. It's basically another Grasshopper, which is basically flying up kind of high and then trying to land. It's attempting to land propulsively. It does have parachutes just in case I fail, because I've only given it a very small amount of fuel for landing. You can see this top tank is about half emptied. And that's actually the same, roughly similar mass to 6 parachutes and re-entry fuel. And if I land propulsively, I don't need re-entry fuel, because I can fire my engines at any speed. Anyway, annoyingly, I did have to pull 1 parachute to get myself pointing the right way there. And I'm starting to kind of... I burn through my fuel quite quickly and quite early. And you can see I'm just trying to slow myself down because I am going quite fast. But the fuel's gonna burn out. So, yeah, the fuel burns out quite early, so I pull the parachutes. But I only have 5 now instead of 6. And the Pulsar 2 first stage can land on 5. But I bring 6 anyway, but this kind of needs 6 to land safely, so it might hit the ocean kind of hard and lose a lot of very expensive equipment, which sort of sucks, but that is the way with it. It's just a test, and we did get some of it back, I guess. But yeah, I will need to work on that, and I may end up just landing it with parachutes anyway, but I would like to try propulsive landings, because it gives me better control. It means that I don't have to do the re-entry burn, you know, when I detach the stage and have to switch to it. That's kind of a hassle. But yeah, I guess we'll look into it. Also means I don't need a big fairing to put in small tanks of re-entry fuel, because I can just use that one big tank. But anyway, what are we launching now? We're actually completing a mission for once. We're putting a satellite in a specific orbit. And you may be thinking, you're just putting a satellite in orbit? Why are you using such a big vehicle? Firstly, because it's reusable, your parts. And partly because I've actually also got 3 more all-seeing eye satellites on there. I want to complete the network, because it's still quite patchy, but if I put these up, it'll completely complete my network, and along with the 2 Hawkeye satellites, I'll have really good coverage around the Kerbal system, which will be nice. So yeah, you can see at the bottom there's the satellite I'm taking to the specific orbit, which you can see marked in pink on the map view. That's the orbit I'm going to, and then 3 all-seeing eye satellites, which can take themselves to a Synchronous orbit by themselves. So yeah, I'm just going to prepare them to decouple, and then I'm going to... Yeah, anyway, that's already in orbit, which is nice. So I can just spend all the time in the world bringing this back. And yeah, it's just a first stage landing. I might not even put, I'm probably just going to put the landings in rather than the falling, just because you see this so much now, because I'm just so good at this. No, it's just, well, after a while it becomes quite easy. I have to say the parachute landings are looking kind of like the winner for me right now, because they're, well, they're very reliable, which is nice, and the propulsive landings, as you just saw, can be quite tricky. So yeah, I guess I'll keep looking into that. Anyway, it's time to put some satellites in position. So we're going to prepare these all-seeing eyes to be detached, just deploy a bunch of stuff, just to make sure they don't, like, accidentally die. And yeah, let's get rid of them, and go onto our orbit after these are safely out of range. Yeah, these are just the ones I put up a while ago, the ones that just do low Kerbal orbit, and then there's a couple more satellites that do beyond, like the Moon and Minmus. So yeah, these are the all-seeing eye 4, 5, and 6. And yeah, anyway, we need to take this to its orbit so we can get paid, because we got to make money, and a lot of the stuff I'm doing right now is not particularly profitable right now. So yeah, I kind of need to get on that and get some money going. Start earning some money. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to bring this second stage back, although it will be slightly faster than usual because it is ferrying this satellite to the correct orbit, but it has a lot of fuel, and this was a very light payload, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem, because I've got quite a lot of excess delta V. This satellite is also going to be a satellite that will communicate to the Moon and Minmus. It has the correct antenna for that. But yeah, anyway, here I was bringing back the second stage after putting it in orbit, but I lost the footage because it crashed, and Bandicam doesn't like to keep footage after crashes, because I don't know why. But yeah, basically you can see that the satellite's now in orbit. The second stage basically just crashed. I think it actually did lose an engine again and everything else was fine. But yeah, basically that's what happened with that. So, pretty standard. But yeah, we've got that satellite in kind of a nice orbit now, and that'll hopefully increase our communications network. I'm just trying to put down loads right now to just make sure it's all there. These all-seeing eyes and the Hawkeyes, the ones that are in Synchronous orbit, that's actually quite logical. I mean, they're a good network, and that'll be my main thing, but I am going to keep dropping small satellites around just to aid it, because it's nice to have some in low orbit and just have redundancies, really. So yeah, I'm going to put this, you can see there's about half an orbit where there aren't any satellites, because I don't have the density of satellites right now to communicate with that orbit, because I'm using omnidirectional antennas, which have quite a limited range. So I'm going to start filling that in today, so that I have a complete circle and can communicate with everything, which will be really nice. And just, yeah, it's one of the first steps, and I mean, I really probably should have done it better before, but I didn't know about the correct orbital period. I thought it was 6 hours, not 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 9.4 seconds, which I am going to put this in right now. You can see my orbital period in my MechJeb window to the left. I'm just going to put this in as close to that as I can get, which is usually pretty accurate if I do... if I like throttle down the engines with the thrust limiter and then put them up. Yeah, you can see it's basically exact. So that should stay there, and we've got to put 2 more in orbit, and I'm getting relatively good at these geosynchronous things. I mean, it's pretty easy, just aim for the circle, really. That's how I do it. So yeah, let's send these on up with their antennas to allow us to communicate forever. Or maybe not forever. I mean, I imagine at some point they'll have diverged so much that, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. But they're omnidirectional satellites, which makes it kind of nice. And as long as they're all in the same orbital period, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, geosynchronous isn't actually the best way of doing this, but with a limited amount of satellites, it's better because you get there's less kind of space that Kerbin's blocking. But yeah, I mean, it's questionable about what network is best, but I'm pretty much just trying to make it work. I'm just going to flood low Earth orbit, well, low Kerbin orbit with smaller satellites, and I'm going to, have this network up here and a few longer range satellites so we can communicate with the moon and things, which we will need in this episode. And I've been staying away from probes a bit in the recent past, but now I won't be. So yeah. Anyway, it's I guess just time to put the third one in orbit. It's obviously all sped up just because it's a bit, But anyway, I was mentioning something about a launch schedule earlier, which I guess you see in a little bit. But yeah, I need to start kind of scheduling my launches because I want to put a little bit of time between launches and stuff, but you'll see that in a bit. But yeah, this will fill in pretty much the last gap. There is a large cluster of satellites in one position, but it looks like from here we'll have pretty damn good coverage, since all of the satellites can communicate with each other, and they can communicate with everything on the ground / low Kerbin / slightly above geosynchronous orbit. So yeah, all is good, and the satellites are all in orbit, and we have a much better communications network now. Yeah, you can see there's a serious cluster near this satellite, but a couple of them are long-range Hawkeye satellites, so we're really old satellites, which are kind of getting near to the end of their usefulness. Anyway, so I did mention earlier about having a launch schedule. If you look up to the left, you'll see that there's a bunch of things that say launch. I'm now putting my launches 15 days apart so that we can move time forward, and I'm also planning them because I've actually been a bit flustered by this series in the kind of recent few days, just because I'm like, okay, I've got to keep the station, I've got to upgrade these vehicles so I can take tourists to the moon, and I've got to go to Duna and Eve and Joule, and I've got to keep food on the Minmus station and the Kerbal station. How do I do this? So yeah, basically that's what that was. And this launch is, I probably should have read the schedule, but I think, yeah, no, I know this is a going to Ceres 1, the Minmus station. It's basically a fuel tank and some some life support. It's atop a Pulsar 3 vehicle. This will be the first real test of trying to reuse the first stage of a Pulsar vehicle. It's probably got a pretty low chance of success, so this will be an expensive mission. All in all, it's about 40 grand. It would be about 20 if I can get that first stage back. But again, first time, and I am doing it entirely propulsively. I just want to see how possible it is. I don't want to see if it's possible, I want to see how feasible, I think, would be a better word. So yeah, anyway, this is going to carry on to orbit. Well, probably not all the way to orbit, but going as fast as possible so that I can spend time landing that first stage, because I'm going to need a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I may just put parachutes on this, on these Pulsar vehicles in future, but I guess I'll see. Anyway, this is the payload. It's all prepared. I'm just going to try and keep it going fast, make sure it's communicating with a long-range satellite, and because it doesn't have a long range on the directional antenna on it. But anyway, here we are, the propulsive landing test 1. And this is actually not much like the Pulsar 3 you saw originally that took the first station to Minmus. It has 6 engines now instead of 5, which means it can launch without boosters. But anyway, here I am trying to fire up the engines. I actually do null my velocity relatively well, except I do run out of fuel in the last few seconds. That may have been a little too sped up, sorry, but yeah, I did run out of fuel and it didn't go particularly well. But anyway, that is the upgraded Pulsar 3, pretty much, other than reusability tweaks, the final revision of it. But anyway, skipping ahead a little, I may touch on the Pulsar 3 again, because I'm very excited about it. But yeah, this, I obviously need to go to Minmus, but I haven't got much battery power on this, which is terrible, because I've made this mistake many times before. So I'm having to spend a lot more Delta V launching in a really bad trajectory that won't hit Minmus. Then I'm going to have to do a pretty significant anti-radial burn to push my orbit onto Minmus at the descending node. You can see I'm planning it here. And yeah, this is pretty much the only way without waiting for ages, and obviously this is a game, so waiting for ages is a bit, so anyway, but I do have the fuel because I was atop a Pulsar 3. Yeah, but that should work, and I do have enough Delta V. And if need be, I can use the fuel in the tank I'm taking to the station, like, if need be, hopefully not, because, well, yeah. But anyway, yeah, like I was saying, the Pulsar 3, like originally when it took the station to Minmus, it could only launch with 4 solid rocket boosters on it, because it was using pretty much the same engine setup that Pulsar 1 was using, the Pulsar 2 was using, with the 5 engines, but I've upgraded it to 6. That's 3 of the high-thrust non-gimbling engines and 3 of the gimbling engines, which provides it with quite a lot of thrust and means it can have quite a lot of fuel and potentially land. Anyway, we're burning off that second stage. That won't be attempting reusability since it's going all the way to Minmus. But yeah, so pretty expensive mission to put a small amount of fuel on a Minmus station. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a lot of Delta V to get there, and especially doing this, because I'm not only having to spend more Delta V burning onto this annoying trajectory, I'm also going to be encountering Minmus very fast, which is probably not great. But, you know, it's got a lot of RCS, it's got a lot of fuel. I'm really hoping I won't have to use any fuel from the tank I'm going to put on the station, because I kind of need that fuel, because last time you saw that I had real trouble getting back to Kerbal after going to the station, just because it was, just because I had so little fuel left. So anyway, that's what I've done. I put the fuel back in the main tank. I've stopped letting myself use the main tank unless it's an emergency. And I'm going to head down to Minmus. One of the stupid things I did here was I didn't realize that I'd run out of power here and lost communications, so I had to burn slightly late, which probably didn't affect too much, but yeah, not great. So I am also burning my monopropellant here, because I brought a bunch of monopropellant, and since it's the lower ISP fuel, it's better to burn that first. Obviously I didn't burn it first, but I was just, you know, just burning a little bit of it. Now I'm pretty much out of usable fuel, maybe even entirely out. I think I have like less than 1 unit. And yeah, so I just I'm going to burn that off if I need to when I get close to the station. I'm going to put my intersect around here. It was initially behind Minmus, but obviously I'm going to run out of power, so now it has to be in view of the sun. That's just well, it's just a problem of me not putting enough batteries on some of my satellites, which is probably not great. I'm totally not just moving my mic after realizing it's pointing sort of the wrong way. Anyway, so now it's just a matter of maneuvering into the station, and yeah, just putting the fuel on there. Dockinet also has a lot of life support, so 2 Kerbals can be there for like, I think, almost 2 years. They won't be, and hopefully at some point it'll be more than 2 Kerbals, but right now Series 1 is just pretty much there for quick tourist destinations, quick tourist, like, you know, missions. But at some point it will become a proper, you know, heading up of the base of operations on Minmus, but that will be in the future. I mean, we've got a lot of station building going on right now, and a lot of things. I mean, I will soon be able to, I will soon be launching the transfer fuel tank for the Moonlander, so I'll be able to get a bunch more missions done. That'll start paying off the huge amount of money I've spent on my kind of network around Kerbal, the Kerbal system of stations and things. And then, I mean, there's only 2. It's just very expensive to do all of this and keep people alive and things like that. But anyway, yeah, so we're just going to decouple this, and this is all good. Anyway, to finish off the video, let's try another test of the Pulsar 3 vehicle. I think this has slightly more fuel in the upper tank, and it does, of course, still have the parachute, since this is a test. And ideally, we'd like to get the fuel of the stage back, even if our test fails. But again, you know, since I want to try and land propulsively. Anyway, what I do here is I actually use the last bit of my ascent fuel to flip myself over a little bit, so I will come back retrograde, so I don't have to pull one of the parachutes. That's just a pretty hardcore maneuver from a pretty hardcore man. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyway, yeah, you can see on my last test and on my last propulsive landing thing on that launch you just saw, I had 192 units of liquid fuel. Now I have 269. Now that will allow me still to get 15 tons to orbit. It's quite, it's actually very enjoyable planning all of this, trying to figure out how much fuel can I take in this top tank, and will it be better than just having parachutes, and if it isn't better than having parachutes, will it pay off in the fact that I won't have to do a re-entry burn? And will I be able to do it consistently? Because obviously I have the Translatron, which is MechJet, which will control your descent, and that's something I'm kind of working on. I'm very much just testing this, and I definitely fire way too early here, which is why I run out of fuel. I'm just going to spoil that now. But yeah, so then I drop it to -70, and I'm just going to descend like that, controlled, but really you want to be slowing down at the last minute. If you watch the Blue Origin land, if you watch the Falcon land, they land very fast until the last minute. Not so much the Falcon. I think the Blue Origin does look crazy, but I mean, it's, you know, nowhere near as awesome as the Falcon. Anyway, I run out of fuel and try to pull the chutes and slam into the ocean, losing everything but the fuel tank and the parachutes. So yeah, that was stupid of me. I kind of screwed that up and probably wasted about 20 grand. So yeah, that was good. Anyway, this is the end of the episode. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're looking forward to me finally getting my Pulsar 3 to be reusable. Not that I've spent that much time doing it, but anyway, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been episode 17 of KSB Road to Exploration. I will see you next time.